welcome to Good Boys Gone Bland, Season 3, Episode 9, Pet Sematary 2. I'm Denali.
I'm Brian.
I'm Jace.
And welcome, Episode 9 already. We are approaching the end of our Doghouse season. We've already watched 9 dog movies. I don't know about you guys, but it doesn't seem like it's been 9 episodes to me. I feel like we're just getting started.
Especially in dog movies because they don't share like a common actor, you know. It's new content every single week, so it doesn't drag on as long.
It's
Maybe
like
that's what it is. Yeah.
Dog years too, you know. 7 dog movies is one regular movie.
What? Yeah.
Oh,
That's how much dramatic content's in one dog movie.
Yeah.
Except for this week.
Yeah.
I aged 7 dog years.
Yeah, this is the most dramatic departure I think we've taken in a season as far as tone. We've watched, I think, pretty much all kids movies.
Yeah.
I want to say for all of our dog season, and this is the first definitely not a kids movie, definitely not even some adults.
Yes,
movies.
and this is probably the best time to say this early and while we're on topic. But if you are a fan of our movies or the movies we watch, and you are thinking about watching the movies, don't feel pressure to watch this movie, please. I don't even know how to say this correctly, but like, wow. We'll talk about this a lot more later, but please, if you are the least bit, traumatizable, do not watch Pet Sematary 2.
There's some troubling content in the movie.
Ryan is begging you to not watch this movie. Proceed with caution with Pet Sematary
there we
2.
go.
Proceed with caution.
With parental supervision required.
Required.
Yeah. So even if you're a 27-year-old adult, please call
your mom. Well, this is something I want to talk about too. And I felt like I needed to call my mommy because shortly after I watched this movie, meaning 3 hours, I had a horrific nightmare.
Oh, about the movie?
Well, I think fueled by the movie. And I think Jace mentioned something about him having a weird dream as well.
Yeah.
But Denali, how were your dreams last night? Because I know you watched the movie yesterday.
Yeah, I generally have nightmares just in general. Because I'm just an anxious person. So I just kind of, I think it was pretty baseline. Dog being ripped apart by dogs, dogs visiting me in my sleep, telling me they're going to fucking stab me. It's just regular dreams with the dog theme.
Did you see any like women completely naked with wolf heads?
I saw a naked dog with a woman head.
Oh,
so just a dog.
That's pretty spooky.
A clothes, yeah. This movie did have a lot of nightmare sequences. I think that kind of fuels some of it. Like I didn't really have any really nightmares to speak of in this movie, which surprised me. Normally, after I watch a horror movie, I am
I know that
days.
you are sensitive to this phenomenon.
I'm very sensitive to horror movies. This one, I think it was so, bad and ridiculous that I think my brain dissociated a little bit, and I was able to put some distance, which was helpful in a movie like this.
Well, maybe for me, I've seen a lot of horror movies. I watch dozens a year, and I thought that this was one of the craziest ones I've ever seen.
Oh, yes.
So for me, there was not a lot of logic to the violence in this movie. And I think that's exactly what dreams thrive off of, Like if your dream just has these, like, if your brain has these images, like horrific images floating around in it, like that's fuel for nightmares. But if it's a horror movie with a plot and you can kind of thread the needle between the events, I think maybe there's less for your brain to go on dream-wise.
I think so. I think that we use the term fever dream a lot when we describe some of these movies. This was very fever dream-like.
Yes. This was the equivalent in my life, or at least in the dog season, of the scene in All Dogs Go to Heaven where Charlie B. Barkin gets transported to literal hell.
Literal hell.
And has to fight the literal dog devil.
Yes.
I'm happy to be back from dog hell.
We've trudged the bottom in terms. I don't know if in terms of quality, that's yet to be said. But in terms of bad vibes, I think this is the worst vibes I think we've had all season.
Now I have a question.
Yes.
Once again, would you rewatch this movie before you rewatched Air Bud Strikes Back?
No way, dude. I have some comments to make about Air Bud Strikes Back now. After watching this one,
Okay,
I would choose this movie.
Yeah,
I would
You
choose
choose
this
this movie?
movie.
Yeah.
I would also choose this movie.
for me, Air Bud has this weird, like, comforting blanket. It's like your, like your fluffy anime blanket you're really ashamed of, but it gives you a lot of comfort. You wrap yourself in it while you watch TV. That's what Air Bud's like for me. You know that blanket that everyone has, guys?
Yeah.
Everyone has that no one...
I want to. This is real proof to our listeners that people can change, because if they listen to last week's episode, they know that you viciously shit on the 5 dogs that played Air Bud. And now you're talking about their comfort blanket.
Yeah. That's where my brain...
That's where Pet Sematary 2 is taking us. We now fully appreciate the dogs and the work they put in to Air Bud Strikes Back. That's
okay. However, watching this movie, I understand why they had 5 different dogs do the meager stunts in Air Bud 5, because you should not subject dogs to what the dogs in this movie went through.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure there were not special effects making those dogs limp away from the stunts.
Yeah, I was thinking about that throughout the movie. I think they did use a lot of dog puppets too. With this one, and that was really off-putting. Before we get into the movie, I wanted to gauge your guys' feelings about the dog season so far. You know, is it going bland for you guys? Are you guys excited about coming to an end with only one movie left? Or are you guys feeling another dog season?
I honestly think that this season has been more dynamic than our other seasons, because often an actor will get typecast.
Right.
But how do you typecast an entire species of animal, you know?
Right.
And I think that coming in, I thought dog movies would all be the same. They'd all be about a family finding a foster dog and taking it to life, and the dog causes trouble, and the family ends up to love the dog in the end. That's basically Air Bud.
Mm-hmm.
But the other movies have been wild.
Absolutely buck wild.
Especially the last couple of weeks. And I think it would be nice to get back to the actor trope, because that's just such a funny idea.
Mm-hmm.
But I liked Dog Season. It's a refreshing take, you know, it's a refreshing gulp of air.
Being able to look back and watching 10 wildly different dog movies and trying to rate them on their dogginess. Well, I think I'm a weird mixture of not ready to move on and ready to move on. You saying this is episode 9 is blowing my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one more and then we have to completely subject ourselves to an entirely new theme.
Yeah, I'm getting the same feeling as I do at episode 9 in our other 2 seasons, where it's almost like this sense of fear where I'm getting comfortable with the season and I'm looking forward to the next dose of dog movie I'm gonna get. Same with the next dose of Ben or Matt. And now I'm like, oh shit, like I gotta change my whole fucking lifestyle now, my whole mindset for the next 10 weeks. And like you, Jace, you know, I appreciated my time with the dogs, but maybe it's time. Maybe it is time to move out of the doghouse after this one more excursion we're about to go on. I bet you we have audience members who probably are like, please God, stop watching dog movies. If that's you, thank you for sticking with us and listening to episode 9.
And yeah, along those same lines, I have this kind of phenomenon in my life where when I watch a certain type of content for a long time, an actor or a character from that content will become my inner monologue. Like if I watch a series or something, the main character's voice will sometimes appear in my brain and talk to me.
Yes.
Speaking my thoughts, not like a schizophrenic thing.
Right.
And so during Ben Affleck's season, I had this kind of like, you know, every man's Boston guy talking to me about lobsters and, you know, wicked
buy a fucking lobster roll. You get a fucking lobster with a chowder, dip it in the chowder.
Matt McConaughey's season, I had some guy trying to sell me weed, you know, but then he would show up in a suit and like hit on my wife, you know. But now for the last 9 weeks, it's just been an indecipherable barking in my brain, and I'm finally ready to move on. Like, I can finally have some peace at work. You know, I'm not typing like bark, bark into the paper anymore.
The barking won't stop. Someone please help me.
I got fired like 6 weeks ago, by the way.
Yeah. Stop barking at the plaintiffs. It's been an interesting experience because I've never owned a dog. I've never had a dog in the house that I live in.
And having have a cat that would like come out of the wall.
Yeah, I had a couple mystical cats who had the same mystical properties that normal house cats do, where they just appear and stare at you while you're taking a shit. And I having this proximity to dogs like this has been such a bizarre experience for me. Tonally, it's just these movies are just absolutely wild. Like, I don't understand why this genre exists. And I really feel like this could be a whole podcast in and of itself. There is enough dog movies out there to examine and to plunge into why the fuck are we making so many of these movies and who is watching them?
And who's funding them?
Yeah.
Who's
dog
writing
lovers.
them? I think there's a couple people who wrote like most of the Airbud movies and things like that. And there's one person I think who wrote almost every one of the funny animal sports movies. But like, what are they up to? Can we get them as a guest?
Yeah,
please.
If we were an entire podcast based on that, that would be a cool goal. Animal sports movies.
Yes, if you've written a dog movie, please email us. You guys feel like the Wheel of Chaos is feeding us more chaotic dog movies over time? Because
I think you're feeding the Wheel of Chaos chaotic dog movies.
Maybe, perhaps it is being filled with more chaotic content as time goes on. I'm scared of what's going to come after this. We're going to talk about what we just went through. I don't know if there is a dog movie out there that's more fucked up than what we watched. And if there is, I don't want to see it.
I don't want to see it.
I'm at some critical point when somebody makes one of these dog movies, they have to have had enough experience working with dogs or understanding them that they have to okay specific scenes for how a dog will react. Like in this movie, we got puppets because of, chucking bloody dogs. But I'm just mystified that we can go from like this movie to the puppets to the talking dogs and snow dogs. There's just no real consistency.
There's only like 10 years between them.
Yeah. What would I do with a dog in my movie? Would I want my dog to talk? I might have to go with like a Scooby-Doo type movie if I was going to write one.
I think
full CGI.
Fuck. No, I don't want that.
Well, that's the thing. I don't want a normal dog around set because that's like a huge liability.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Dog stars are divas too. Constantly asking for the best puppy chow. I would want a kind of like a Jar Jar Binks style animatronic dog person. Kind of like, have like a green suit, with a bunch of white balls on them, just kind of crawl around and go woof woof and say quippy lines. I think that's my ideal if I was working with a dog.
Okay, so this movie, and I want to get your thoughts on this. It came out way later than I expected it to be. When I think of like stupid, gory, kind of like body horror, shock horror movies, I think of the 80s.
Right.
This was made like, in the mid 90s or early 90s.
92.
Yeah. So that's, not a lot of time between that and our normal family dog movies. Were there not like a lot of other dog movies before this? I know there was probably Cujo was before this.
Right. There was Milo and Otis before this, but I think you have a point, and that might be why this was so critically panned. This is coming out of the 80s where I think people are getting tired of this type of movie, where you have something that's so trying to be shocking. This is the type of movie where they want like 14-year-olds who are seeing this movie to talk about how fucked up it is and hype it up to their friends and be like, oh man, this is the goriest, most fucked up shit you ever seen, man. You gotta see this movie, and I think it totally falls flat for that reason because there's been so many movies that do that already and it's just not executed well. Do you guys want to just talk about this movie? Because I can get into the synopsis
and that's kind of the funny thing is like about. I don't want to talk about anything else. Like normally we have a bit here for like 20, 30 minutes before we start talking about the movie, but
yeah,
gosh dang, I can't get this movie out of my head.
Yeah.
Well, let's exorcise this demon, Ryan. Just like the ceremony we did for McConaughey to remove the McConaughey voice from inside my mind, we need to talk it out, talk about this movie, and expel it from our bowels. If you guys are ready, I can go over the synopsis because I believe it is my week this week for Pet Sematary 2. Mind you, before we get, have you guys seen Pet Sematary 1? I went in cold. I haven't seen it.
This is my third Pet Sematary rendition.
You've seen like the remake of Pet,
I saw the original,
or,
I've seen the remake, and I've seen this movie.
Wow.
Briefly, how does this hold up between the other two?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Way better?
Way better. Look at his reaction.
So the difference, I guess, is that I went into Pet Sematary, the original one, with the same sort of mysticality that I normally enter 80s horror movies with. Like, I don't exactly know what the plot is, but I have a kind of a good idea. Like, it's literally about a cemetery for pets, so something weird is going to happen. But there's a couple twists and turns along the way in the original, and the premise isn't spelled out for you. Like, the premise is something that you have to kind of uncover. The idea that, spoilers, the idea that there's a cemetery that can bring things back to life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like really deep in the first movie, if I remember things, or at least the main character doesn't like believe in it for a long time.
Really? Okay.
But like in this movie, that's totally, it's kind of almost assumed that you've seen the first one.
Right.
So they're just willy-nilly talking about this like really cool premise that is actually kind of scary. They're just like, the kids are like, oh, there's a cemetery over there. People back in life. Oh, you want to go get Wahlburger? And that really kind of just popped the balloon.
Gotcha. Okay.
So compared to the original, like I really like the original. And the remake was not bad either.
Huh. Okay. Well, I'm planning on watching those. I was just curious to kind of have your take on that.
I would actually recommend the remake for people who are somewhat new to the idea or maybe haven't seen a Pet Sematary movie before. It's not terrific, but it's a standard horror movie remake. It's not better than a normal remake.
Okay, shit. All right, I might fucking watch that. Well, Pet Sematary 2 of 1992 stars Edward Furlong of Terminator 2 fame. He plays Jeff. Yeah, I was wondering where I recognized him from. Yeah. He plays Jeff Matthews. Him and his dad moved to a small town in Maine after his mother's tragic and gruesome death. His mother was a famous actress. He saw her die. It was really fucked up and comically horrible. And then in this town that they move into, we are introduced to Jeff's new friend, Drew, and his abusive stepfather / town sheriff, Gus, played by Clancy Brown, a.k.a. Mr. Krabs. One night, Gus shoots and kills Drew's dog, Zowie, and Drew asks Jeff to help him bury the dog in the Native American burial ground. Rumor has it that whoever is buried in this pet cemetery will rise from the dead. And of course, it wouldn't be a movie unless it worked. Zowie is revived. However, something is not quite right with this dog. Hijinks.
Something isn't right.
Something isn't right with this dog.
Everything isn't right, guys. It's
really
obvious.
Hungry.
Hijinks ensue, leading to many gory deaths and multiple revivals in the Pet Sematary. I'll leave it at that for now. I think we can kind of walk this thing up. This movie was fucking wild. Like
That's
Ryan
a good
said,
synopsis.
Thank you, Ryan. I introduced the concept early, and then I feel like the last 25%, they just take that like gear shifter and then just slam it into the highest goddamn gear. And it goes completely off the rails.
It's like a hidden gear
into space
that isn't on the gear chart on the shift knob.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, well, maybe there's a 7th gear? And they try it, and it works. I'm like, oh, and they drop the clutch. And it just takes off. Like, I thought this movie would have a normal, sensible pacing structure.
Right.
No,
it did not. It's like an airplane going off a runway that's on the end of a cliff. Like it has to go 100 miles an hour, or there's no plan B.
Yeah, it kind of plods a little bit in the beginning. I found, and then once the things are set into motion, it just goes absolutely wild. We can start with kind of the intro, where you see the kid's mom. She's an actress in the movie. I thought it was kind of clever how they kind of set it up. And like the way her death scene was I actually like I found it hilarious because it was so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because she basically gets electrocuted, right? And she's touching a metal grate in like this scene, and the actress, I feel bad because I'm sure the director asked her to do this. She's like grabbing the grate and just like jerking around for like 2 minutes. She's like
comically long time. To where you think that they're like recycling footage.
And the kid's like, "Mom!" And then it like cuts again.
Everybody is like running around her and not stopping it.
There would have been
just fucking unplug it, please.
There were so many people standing in that water.
Yeah.
Like
So that,
kill count. The start of the movie probably was at least 5. It's just minimum.
yeah. And her face hits the grate, and then like later they pull her face off, and it like comes off on the grate.
Yeah, that was
look how fucked up this movie this is. Yeah, this is what the movie's gonna be like.
This movie, right from the get-go, reminds me of like those metal bands that like the death metal bands who have like really, really grotesque names for no reason.
Brown fetus.
Well, right. And so at first you're kind of like, I don't really want to listen to this. Like the music, I'm sure it's just like every other music, but why do they try to one up each other on the names? Like that was this movie, but with the actual things they showed on screen. Like at first, okay, there's this lady who gets electrocuted and it's really gruesome and her face like melts to the bar. Wow, that's bonkers. I wonder how long it'll take until something that gruesome happens again. Not long. And
that's like the least gruesome thing in the movie.
Yeah, like they kept it like smooth and mild for the opening scene. Oh man, this movie was bonkers. Like I don't like gory horror movies in the way that I don't like torture porn movies. Like there's a whole subgenre of horror that people consider torture porn. And I don't like those movies. And whenever I'm talking to someone who isn't a horror fan, and I say, yeah, I like horror movies, they're like, oh, how can you watch all those like torture movies? And in a way, that reminds me of like metal music, like I just mentioned. When if someone is like, oh, hey, I like metal music, but oh, how can you like those really grotesque bands? It's like, well, that's not really what all metal music is like, you know.
Actually, I listened to Death Heaven, which has a lot of critical acclaim.
Yeah. So in a way, this movie was towing the line between torture movies and normal movies because it was just about like people dying in like really strange ways. It's almost like Final Destination.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Once I saw that first death, I was like, here we go, folks. This is gonna, because if that's their intro, they're setting the tone. I felt like this movie, and to speak of something slightly positive about this movie, it was very Stephen King. And I noticed this in the beginning. You know, people really like the Stranger Things aesthetic, where you have kids on bicycles running through a fall day and like somewhere in the middle of nowhere town, you've got really cynical characters. Pretty much everyone who's an adult is kind of a bastard, with the exception of the main character's dad, who just seems like a poor communicator. But a lot of sadists, bullies who are just so horrible that it's just insane.
The bullies in this one, I actually want to say some positive things about the bullies in this movie.
Their fashion.
Yeah, great fashion.
Not their fashion.
Dude, their fashion was great, dude. The scarves, the tasteful layering, the cross earring. I was like, this bully's dripping, dude. Like, I don't know what his deal is, but he's got a great sense of
straight out of like the Lost Boys.
Yeah.
But okay, follow me here. In a movie where you want to, you know, describe the bullies being super evil, there's a scene in this movie where the bullies steal a kitten that the main character has. Mm-hmm. And they steal the kitten and they ride away on the bikes, and they attempt to tell the kid that the kitten died and it's now in a pet cemetery. But we get there and the cat's actually fine. They didn't actually harm the cat, at least not physically, maybe psychologically.
Yeah.
And so that I was like, oh, I was expecting the cat to have died in the horribly gruesome way that the bully described to us, by the way. Right. And then the bully gets in a fight with the main character.
Well, the bully gets like sucker punched.
Well, right. So the bullies, there's like 5 of them around the one main character, and you expect the worst. And the main bully gets sucker punched and then proceeds to have a completely fair fight with the main character. Like, I really like that scene. They get in a fight. It's one-on-one. The other bullies don't step in and, like, you know, just stomp the kid's head in. And the bully ends up winning, and he gets the main character down, hits him on the ground, and gets up and stops after it's clear that he's won.
So you're applauding his like restraint as a bully. He could have gone so much worse, especially for Stephen King.
He got into some hijinks, but he was technically defending himself. He got sucker punched, and his friends didn't viciously beat the shit out of the kid that sucker punched him. That's
stole his fucking cat and made fun of his dead mom. Like,
that's totally okay from a bully perspective. Like, if you're a bully and your code is, I'm gonna really try to like mess with the new kids, I'm like, okay, that's not nice. You shouldn't do those things, and you really should not say things about people's dead mothers. But if you're a bully and your code is, I'm going to like kill the new kids, that's not okay. Okay, we need to revise the bully code, you know.
Yeah, contrast this with the bullies from like
they carved into the fat kid's stomach.
Yeah, with switchblade. Like, I feel, I get what you're saying. When I saw Clancy Brown in this movie, I don't know if you've seen him in like a lot of other movies, but he always seems to, like, when I saw him, I was like, okay, countdown. He's gonna be a fucking sadist. He's gonna be the most insane, creepiest, crazy dude I've ever seen. It just happened so fast. His first line, where he's like, me and your mom used to get together sometime. And I was like, oh, here we go. Here we go.
Hey, kid, I used to fuck your mom.
Yeah, literally.
Now.
Oh, Lord.
Denali, buddy, why don't you give us a little bit more from the movie? Tell us what you like. Ryan, buddy.
He
killed it.
Gave off some weird vibes before he did anything sadistic. Like, there's the part one scene in particular that comes back around and turns into sadism. But like, he has these rabbits. And you don't know why he has these like hundreds of white rabbits in cages. And he's rigging up this like electrical protection system for the rabbits, like on the outside of the cage. And he's watching the rabbits do it. And he's like got this weird smirk on his face the whole time. And we later find out that the electrical system is like used to deter the dog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I thought for sure, I was like, he's gonna electrocute those rabbits to death? Like, does he just have an animal torture farm?
I was wondering the same. Until shit. Well, we could talk about what happens to him, I guess, because we're on the subject of Clancy Brown's character. He does, first of all, great performance. I actually thought he did a great job at acting like a maniac. Really did.
He did what he was told to do.
I think he carried the movie.
Honestly, he was the only good actor, I think, in this movie.
You didn't like Goose?
Which one was Goose?
The dad.
Oh, he was okay. I didn't really think he was very good either.
I don't think he wanted to be there.
I don't think so either. He really phoned it in. Clancy Brown, like, basically what we said in the premise is that he shoots his son's dog. The dog comes back to life. Eventually, this dog rips his fucking throat out in this random scene where he's like beating his son, and then the dog comes to the rescue. The creepy zombie dog covered in blood with red eyes saves Drew's character.
Yep.
Rips the dude's throat out and he dies. And I think this is an unintentionally hilarious part of the movie where the two kids kind of like, oh, that sucks. You want to throw him in the Pet Sematary? like it's nothing, and they're totally unaffected on the ride home.
Yeah, that's why the Jeff character, who is, I guess, technically the main character, the John Connor guy, his character was all over the place. Yeah. Sometimes he'd be like really scared of the Pet Sematary, and then for like 6 straight scenes, he would just be staring at the wall.
Yeah, he was like, I think he had some kind of split personality where he'd be acting like a psychopath, like,
right.
or acting like someone who has really terrible delusions. But other times he's like a grounded, normal character, like, geez, guys, this is crazy. And then he's like, oh, let's fucking bury his body and then have him come back and then do like a Weekend at Bernie's thing, even though he's kind of off. Like, I don't know.
The Weekend at Bernie's scenes were kind of strange. Like, hey, if there's one person you should probably tell that you brought this guy back to life, it's your mom who's sleeping in the same bed as him.
Yeah.
And also the inability of the kids to predict that the evil character would come back even more evil after they buried him in the cemetery, after the super nice dog came back evil.
A nice dog ripped a dude's throat out, and they're like, yeah, this sadistic dad, he's definitely going to be A-okay when he comes back.
And he was for a while.
He was
weird.
Okay, I guess.
I liked the flip of the switch when he comes back, and he's like meh, doesn't really say anything. It's like kind of like okay, you get one because you brought me back to life. I'll give you a little bit, yeah. But then, and then like the dinner, he invites him over for dinner. He's like,
where he's like laughing with a mouthful of mashed potatoes. That scene was actually pretty good. I actually legit enjoyed that scene where he's just acting like a maniac at the dinner table.
There was suspense, right? Because we didn't know when he was going to go crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the scene with the bully at the end too. So it's just wow.
God.
This whole movie, again, fever dream, totally makes sense. You don't really understand what direction the plot is going to go because he's a zombie and he saves the kids from the bully, right? But then he chases the bully down and viciously murders him with his dirt bike. What are you doing? I'm just fucking with you, kid.
That was so funny.
It's like, and then brings him back to life. It's like,
yeah, that scene, like,
I loved it.
First of all, these people who get resurrected, they're kind of heroes for like a second, right? Because he saves the bully is like about to grind the main character's face in like a bike spoke. And then Clancy Brown, zombie Clancy Brown, shows up, saves the day. He's like, hey, kid, get out of here. I got this. And then proceeds to grind his face off with a dirt bike.
I need bodies for my zombie army.
That scene
by the way, audience, we're mentioning some grisly stuff here.
Yeah.
Yes.
However, we're only mentioning probably the least grisly murders in the movie. There's some other stuff that happens that we will not mention just by goodwill.
Yeah, there's that scene where he has the dirt bike wheel above the bully's face, and then he's like saying like, "Oh, I'm just fucking with you," and his scarf gets caught and his face gets grinded off. Clancy Brown's delivery of "whoops" and like keeps going was so funny.
Yeah, and that's one thing too, is like it was just tonal whiplash. There were really gruesome murder scenes, and then there were like kind of funny, really gruesome murder scenes.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the difference between a slasher movie and like a true, what I think I would call like, a horror movie, or in even some case, one of the torture movies.
Like
in slasher movies,
Elm Street type.
Like in slasher movies, I don't necessarily view it as one person going around and murdering a bunch of people. I view it as, okay, here's a slasher movie. There's going to be a monster, and people are going to die, and they're going to die in silly ways. But when I'm watching an actual horror movie, there are deaths in it that I like actually feel bad when I watch the movie, and I see a character on screen who maybe I liked, and they die in a way that makes me feel like, wow, this person is murdered, and I feel shame, I feel sadness, and I want a sense of justice brought to it. This movie had both of those things. It had wacky, crazy deaths, and then it had like, Jesus Christ, someone needs to stop this guy. And some of them happened back to back, and they were never really clear, except for like after he did it, whoops. Like those moments made it kind of clear how they viewed each one, but this movie is in this weird no man's zone, like this purgatory between a true horror movie that was out to scare you and a slasher that might be a little bit more lighthearted.
I totally agree, Ryan. I think moments like where the whoops happened, where these funny things happened, I think that was the uncoupling event for me, where I could stop taking it seriously and stop being so disturbed by it, I think. Even just that opening scene, I think I viewed it more in that terms of, like a pulpy slasher movie that's not meant to be taken 100% seriously. But is that the right choice? Like, I don't know if that is.
And the original was definitely a slasher movie.
Yeah.
So like, and okay, the reason I'm talking so much about like horror movies, I watch stuff because horror is like my favorite genre of movie. And I mean, I'm not like a horror fiend, but I love slashers. And I even like write horror movie scripts and stuff like on the side for fun. That's like one of my hobbies. And I have a semi-horror novel that I've written, and I'm writing another one that's even more horror-y, and I love this stuff. I like absolutely love this stuff. And so when I saw the wheel land on a horror movie, I was kind of stoked, you know? And after watching this movie, it's got to go in the category of like, do not recommend other people watch this. I think it's up there with like, although I think it's different than, I think it's up there with like Hellraiser.
Oh yeah, Hellraiser's a rough watch.
I wouldn't recommend that people watch Hellraiser as a blanket statement. You know, if I knew somebody and I knew that they might like that movie specifically, then I might recommend it to them because I think it's a good movie. But I wouldn't make a blanket recommendation. And I think that's where this movie falls. It's like, if you're a horror movie and you're okay watching kind of grisly stuff happen, I think this movie does have some interesting things that happen on screen. However, I'm not going to endorse this movie in any way whatsoever.
This movie did it for me as a comedy, is like the lasting impression.
Yeah.
I don't get really, like I understand the gory. I thoroughly enjoyed the gory elements of it, but listening to you talk about it as a horror movie, as some level of a slasher. One, I've read that it's completely departed from the first movie altogether, so there was a huge tonal shift. Stephen King totally denounced this movie. Entirely. Like, he does not. It's like Pet Sematary 2. Nope, it's not mine. Not my shit.
Yeah, Stephen King doesn't write fucked up books ever. But yeah, I did see that.
He writes masterpieces like The Dark Tower.
Okay, what do you guys think is the end game of like the people who get resurrected? Because what's happening is Clancy Brown's character, he gets resurrected, right? He kills someone and throws them into the zombie pit. Is eventually the town just going to become like a functional zombie town? Like, what's the end game here?
Okay, so as I think the relative Pet Sematary expert, I think that there's kind of a throwaway line in this movie, but at the end of the movie, the wife says, "Dead is better." And I think that's the theme, right? Is that the people who are dead want to kill in some sense because they have this attachment or belief that, you know, it's better for you to be dead and resurrected than for you to be alive and be mortal.
Okay, that makes sense, actually. I do remember that scene. I think that was a famous line in the first one, right?
I think so, yeah.
That they make fun of in the South Park movie, like, remember, dead is better. Like, don't go burying your boy in that pet cemetery there.
Right. And like, so the dead is better in the first one is referring to like, dead is better than resurrected.
Right.
Don't put him in the pet cemetery because dead is better than whatever you're going to get back. In this movie, the tonal switch was like, hey, everybody should also be dead and resurrected. And I think that's maybe where like some misinterpretation happened.
Yeah.
Even though the same person wrote both movies, like the script and directed them, I think.
So we can do the count. Let's do a count real quick. So we've got, you know, Clancy Brown's character gets resurrected. He kills the bully, resurrects him, and the bully comes back, also sadistic, big surprise.
Yep.
Towards the end, you have Jeff's character, who at this point, his best friend Drew and Drew's mom were killed by the sheriff. He like drove them into like a semi truck, but that scene was also weird too because I feel like that was avoidable.
By potatoes.
Like, what was with the potatoes, man? Why
they killed him and then it just moved on? And I prefer it that way. It's like, what the fuck?
The semi truck hits them, and then like there was an artistic decision that was made to pour like 10,000 potatoes on top of their body.
Yeah, they wasted all those potatoes.
Yeah.
Like, what a bizarre. Okay, and then Jeff at this point loses his mind. He's like kind of like catatonic and totally dissociated. He decides to go help Gus, I guess, bury his mom to bring her back in the pet cemetery, right? And that kind of brings in the climax of the movie, where you just have all of the resurrected people in one house, and Jeff is trying to fight with his dad to get the fuck out of there. That last bit was insane. And this is a dog movie, mind you.
Okay, that's mostly what I want to say. It's
we
like,
gotta talk about that.
huge. Like this is like the poor tennis ball rolls past the dog and goes down a well. And, like we are in some depths of darkness that I did not know existed in the dog movie universe. And the whiplash I got from going from Airbud 5, Airbud Spikes Back to Pet Sematary 2. Like Jesus Christ. I don't think I'm ever going to recover.
No.
I'm more happy about this one, but I would argue thoroughly that this is less of a dog movie. I would say whatever fucking movie we watched with Matthew McConaughey in it, that I was like adamant that it was not an MM movie and we shouldn't have watched it. Like this is 5 times worse.
Okay, the dog had a lot of screen time compared to Matthew McConaughey in Dazed and Confused, I will say.
That is, yeah.
And I might even say the dog was a driving force in this movie.
Yeah, that's more of it, is the dog was the driving force.
None of this would happen. Yeah.
Committed some war crimes.
Yep.
That I'm not going to describe. But they were, man, like the dog's actions, I think, had a very important impact on the story. And the dog, whether that's like to tertiary characters or to primary characters, I think that this movie would have happened a lot differently, not for the dog. I don't necessarily know if I can say the same for Matthew McConaughey's pervy character in Dazed and Confused.
For sure. This movie, and this is outside of the dog, I suppose, but the soundtrack of this movie, I think kind of low-key slaps.
Oh yeah.
It slaps. There's great like synthy riffs in there, and then some kind of grungy like and then like guitar wails in between the scenes.
Right. It's definitely like a post-Nirvana horror movie too. Like that's
I was kind of into that. This movie was very aesthetic. There's some great shots, I thought, of like the kids riding their bicycles past like fields and like creepy houses, and that's the shit I show up to Stephen King movies for. Yeah. Like that type of kind of nostalgic style movie with these types of things, and that's definitely what Stranger Things is tapping into. Some of these other modern kind of throwback horror movies. I think they didn't play into the strengths of a Stephen King movie.
Right. They almost forgot that it was one.
Yeah. The mysticism just quickly turned into like camp, very distasteful camp.
So I think that our discussion so far is great proof that this podcast works best when we talk about movies for adults.
Yeah.
Because we are able to talk about all this stuff, and we're not just like, oh, there's not really much to say about them this week. We're talking about it the whole time. And I haven't even looked at my giant page of notes over here that I probably will just review for my review. But like, I don't know, like our discussion this time seems a lot more serious. We can talk about, how well it's shot or how well it sticks to the genre, because it actually has one. That genre isn't just dog movie. It exists beyond just being a dog movie.
We can go get Airbud and we can bring him back.
Okay, Jace, I'm listening. I'm listening for Airbud 15, where we bring his ass back. Wait, could this be the sequel I've been waiting for, where Airbud cusses, does drugs, and sometimes kills?
Yes.
It's because he was resurrected. And
it's gonna write itself, man.
You know what it is? It's the U.S. in the Tokyo Olympics. They've run out, like because of the pandemic, they've run out of key athletes. And they need a player for like 5 different sports. So they're like,
this situation is built for Airbud.
We need Airbud back.
He's the most versatile athlete on the planet. Ain't no rules. Dogs can't perform in at least 17 of these obscure sports that there's probably not a lot of rules for. But I feel like an Airbud Olympics is kind of the natural progression of where he's playing ping pong, doing curling, long jump, fucking ski jump, basketball, of course, obligatory just for the fans. Boxing. No, not boxing. God damn it. I keep doing this.
Boxing.
I keep going back to fighting. Fencing. That's what's probably fine.
The plot could even be like Airbud's on the national basketball team, but he needs to compete in these other sports, and he has to get done in time for the basketball championship.
Oh God, he'd be run ragged because he's doing volleyball. He's like he's doing the.
And the basketball teammates are telling him, "Don't play so hard, Airbud." And he's like, "I play 100% no matter what. If I didn't, I wouldn't be here. This is my second chance."
Fuck.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is writing itself, you guys.
I think this is one of my top 5 movie pitches we've done. I think Air Bud.
We're gonna make the blacklist.
Is there any are we running into any issues with stealing both Air Bud IP and Pet Sematary?
And Stephen
Oh,
King.
100%. We will be sued into oblivion.
Okay, we just need Stephen King's okay to have a resurrection plotline in Air Bud. And then
That's probably the easiest part, by the way. I think the hard part is going to be whoever owns the Airbud IP. Or we could wait 100 years until it turns into public domain.
Let's write this, put it in a time capsule. Someone 100 years from now, they'll dig it up and be like, Papa, what is a film? They're like, that was from the before time. We don't speak of that anymore. That's from
Airbud Air Olympics starts a cultural revolution in the future. Cultural renaissance.
When all the glaciers are melted and it becomes water world, they'll be like, let's act this out and it'll give people hope. And then is that another screenplay?
That's pretty good too. Yeah.
It's a water world sequel. Fuck.
Water world 2.
Yeah, but another IP.
It's still really bad, but also sometimes we do plays.
Only 3 guys found dry land in Waterworld. Okay, there's at least 7 billion other people that still need to find it. Well, back to this movie. There was some pretty messed up dream sequences that actually scared me, legitimately.
Right.
Because there's a scene where I want to get crude, but
we don't need to spell the scene out.
We don't need to spell this.
So I would have liked to see them.
If you are the least bit curious about watching Pet Sematary 2, which, by the way, we do not advise that you do.
Yes.
Then you can watch and find out what we're talking about.
Okay, but there is a dog head on a lady in a dream sequence, and they do have sex, and that's it. That's all I'm going to say about it. It happens twice.
There was an actually scary scene in this movie, a couple that were actually well done. By the way, namely the dog in the rocking chair scene.
Oh my fuck, that was terrifying. I was thinking about
that was really good.
That actually got me an actual jump, which is easy, but
because
that one did.
I want to spell this out for people who maybe aren't horror fans. There are ways to make jump scares good. Now, a lot of people say jump scares are, they're what's wrong with horror movies and stuff like that. Well, I sort of agree with you. And I sort of agree that fake jump scares are really the problem, or the over-reliance of. 1 or 2 in a horror movie is good, as long as there's a payoff, as long as there's a reason to be scared. And in my opinion, the 3 good elements of a jump scare are breadcrumbs leading up to the scare, then the actual scare, then the actual scare, and then the sustained scare. So when there's a fake scare, oh, it's just my kitty cat in the window.
Yeah, that's so annoying.
There's no sustained scare, and therefore, you just completely, I hate this movie. But there's a few very, very notable jump scares that I really, really love, and they're some of my favorite scenes in movie history. There's one in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre that is my favorite jump scare, and the scary part is that you need to be on the edge of your seat, because at any moment things could go crazy and the characters could be in danger. I care about the characters being in danger. I don't necessarily care about me jumping up out of my seat.
Right.
So, a good jump scare is like a good nut shot on your friend,
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to keep your hands.
It lasts.
Yeah, it's a good jump scares like jazz, man. You got to have a build up and follow through, subverting expectations. It's the jump scares you don't do that matter. I just like making a jazz analogy.
I think you might be trying to make a joke, but yes, I would actually kind of agree with that in some ways.
Yeah, well, that rocking chair scene, and I agree with what you said, Ryan. This one was very effective because it just shows the mom kind of rocking in the seat. It's part of a dream sequence. And then it kind of pans up and it has this demonic dog head right after they resurrect the dog. And then the kid's bed just pulls away and the room expands really fast. And it's a terrifying sequence. If they kept elements like that in the movie and kind of kept it serious, I think it would have been a really effective horror movie.
It would have been, I think it's on par with Nightmare on Elm Street style. where they do the mixing of dreams and reality, and that movie has an amazing scare scene in it. And I think that this movie kind of forgot what it was supposed to be doing, you know, and it was so close. It was like, tone it down a little bit. Don't make so many weird scenes and a few less jokes, and you're kind of there.
Yeah, definitely.
I had something I was trying to read. One of the things we alluded to, but not really talked about this season much, is like how these animals were handled on film. And what this movie, of the majority of them, did leave me like feeling like, oh, holy shit, is that okay?
Yeah.
There's a full write-up on the Humane Society about how they handled this, or like on the website, that they handled this movie really, really well. So they used a lot of puppets. It detailed all of the scenes with the animals and how they were used, and then how puppets were used. And it really doesn't seem like there were any gaffes or like anything wrong at all with how they treated the animals. So like, apparently there was a scene where Zowie jumps through some glass in some through a window, and they gave a full like recollection of training the dog to jump through an open fake window, and then jumping through sugar glass, and then just being able to do it. And, so I'm pleasantly surprised.
That's actually really relieving to hear, because I was, like Ryan, I was watching this movie and I was like, I don't know, there's a lot of shots with this dog, because there's violent scenes with it, and I'm just like, I wonder about this stuff, especially throughout this season. Good to hear. A fucked up gory movie actually did some ethical shit behind the scenes.
Yeah.
The ending of this, if I may, the ending of this movie, where basically, I guess everybody dies, with the like everyone who was resurrected brutally dies. Like they burn the whole house down. The kid's resurrected mom, they burn her in the house because they find out that she's not really the mom, because she's like a demonic monster. The kid and the dad are like, hey, let's get out of here. And they get into a car and drive away. Of all the movies that I thought would have a court or a legal scene of any kind, I thought this would at least have something. It's how the fuck this kid and dad getting out of this town without being suspect number uno for like 4 murders?
Right.
You can't.
And every dog movie fits into some form of like law that's on the bar exam.
Yes.
Except for this movie, I think they don't have like resurrection law on there. I guess in some ways you could make some sort of like human rights arguments, but like
we're getting into some ethical territory of do resurrected people have autonomy and rights as humans, even if they are possessed by probably some demonic force.
I mean, I think if there was any type of a court case surrounding this, you would win it no matter what, because you'd be like, okay, I'm gonna kill this rabbit. Vet, it's dead, right? Come with me. Come to the Pet Sematary. And then you're going to bury the rabbit. It's going to come back to life, and you're going to have a Monty Python and the Holy Grail scene where the rabbit flies and starts biting necks off. You're like, oh, Jesus Christ.
That could be in the intro of Air Bud, Air Bud Pet Sematary, the Bud Olympics, where...
That's a good name, yeah.
Where the government finds out about the Pet Sematary and uses it to their advantage. And one way they use it is by resurrecting Air Bud so they can sweep the Olympics.
Holy fuck. Okay, I'm writing an email to Stephen King tonight, and I'm going to ask him to reach out to the Air Bud franchise and write this movie.
Yeah, I think Disney might be the harder pull than Stephen King.
Yeah, well, I think he can pull some strings. I mean, the wider question is if the government gets a hold of this, and this is morbid. This is featured in other comics and stuff. They might create an undead army who are painless murderers. There's not a lot of real estate in the Pet Sematary. It's kind of like a small circle they showed in the movie.
Pretty big.
Where is it? Like it's kind of like this circle of stones, and I feel like you can't fit like an army of 100,000 in there. Like
do you have to bury it in the middle portion of that giant, because of the circle structure as we see from like I think it must have been, did they film that shot with a helicopter? They had
wasn't a drone.
Aerial
it was
shots.
a couple.
The structure itself was large, but I feel like that there was the inner circle that maybe that's where you have bury.
Yeah, I feel like that's where the cellular regeneration was happening. And then they say you have to bury your own. Does the president have to bury all of them? Like, is that kind of how it works? Like,
no. So this could be like a way that you have a murder trial.
Okay.
And the sentence, okay, you part of the sentence is you have to go out to the pet cemetery and bury the victim.
Oh shit! But then the victim's gonna be a murderer.
No, the victim's gonna be an undead crazy person.
But then they can enlist in the military with us undead, and then you have an
enlist. I think just immediately brought.
Guys,
get a large net system set up.
This means that the U.S. government is going to force Airbud's owner to dig up his dog and rebury him in the pet cemetery.
Hey, for the good of the nation, I would not put it past the U.S. government to do that.
For national security, anything, Jace.
For propaganda, even. Like, this is not even national security.
So they'll keep putting people into the pet cemetery, like people ranging all the way back to the 1900s to create an undead army.
Get Lincoln out.
Get fucking Lincoln out. You don't got any good candidates? I mean, he's from the 1800s. He probably has some problematic statements.
Yeah, let's be real. He's not progressive for today's standard.
Yeah. But maybe if there's really not good candidates, you can resurrect a good one. You know, resurrect.
Yeah, let's see the problem.
Son, you're Abraham Lincoln's great grandchild. I need you to bury him for me.
What?
What? Isn't he buried?
You have to bury your own.
Look at the long story, kid.
You know they bury bodies with like concrete above them, right?
We took care of that
for this
part.
exact reason.
Oh.
So, what if, and you know, forgive me for being morbid, you started burying, like people started vetting bodies for like being good soldiers, like, you know, bodybuilders, people who are really strong, maybe big dogs and shit. And they kind of put them in a separate cemetery for like a draft where they're like, okay, we don't want to do this. Let me just say as president, I don't want to do this at all. But it's good that we have some choices in case we need a large undead army of about 300,000 that are remorseless and don't feel pain and almost invincible.
Yeah, that kind of brings up a point, right? Where is there a moral way to do that?
Let's say the family members sign off on it. They're like,
well, wouldn't the person want to sign off on it in life?
You'd have to sign off on like
that's
a
even
donor
better,
list.
Ryan.
That would be, I think, the U.S. might, you know, that gun might be better before it's drawn. Like you might want to tell the other countries, hey, look. You know, you got to do what we say, because if you don't, we've got something in our back pocket that we'll share with you, but you gotta fall in line. Like, would you go to war with a country who you knew could pull out an undead army?
I think we're kind of that's under the assumption that the U.S. is the only place. Like,
I mean, there's like mystical shit all around the world, you know? I'm sure even penguins got mystical shit down there. Can you imagine like resurrecting like Optimus Prime, you know, when Optimus Prime died and, you know, Revenge of the Fallen?
Yeah.
You know,
you're
losing me.
That'd be scary. That'd be a bad one.
That'd be terrifying, right?
I guess, yes. Okay, Denali. The concept of reincarnating a giant alien robot from the series Transformers would be terrifying on a basic level.
Cool. So wait, okay, so they don't really explain in the first one, do they, like why this, like, is it a native, are they kind of doing like a fetishization of like Native American mysticism?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. But it's not like something that the Native Americans knew about that was there before. I feel like that was kind of the case.
It's kind of, it's kind of like ancient wisdom sort of ordeal.
Okay, so that means like this is like some kind of temporal rift where some kind of physics thing is happening in this point in the world, and then like they kind of knew about it beforehand.
Well, I think it's the mysticism to Native American religions is very, very obviously. However, I think in general, the stereotypical idea that would be in an 80s movies about Indian burial grounds
okay.
is going to be that they've figured out a way to do this by praying to some sort of tribal god that we don't pray to.
Okay.
So there's this, they have an access to an all-knowing power, and they are able to infuse that power in their burial grounds.
Okay. So I'm wondering, like, yeah, I guess I want to know, like, why, but I guess this is not the movie for that.
No, not at all.
Why didn't they like write a warning? Because I'm sure after like the first one,
well, they did.
Did they write a warning? Were they like, hey, guys,
that's
don't fucking do this?
That's the whole idea. It's
okay.
Dead is better.
Okay, they wrote it down in the first one. They were like, hey guys, no one fucking do this. This is a bad idea.
Yeah, that's the whole.
So keep out.
Well, right, Jace, you've caught on to it. In the first movie, there's a long kind of moral quandary over whether or not to climb the wall that says keep out. And the wall is made of like sharp sticks and things. So
you have to climb over that with a body?
Right, and that's kind of almost a minor plot point in itself. And he's already dead.
You don't have to bury it, dude. Just the impact.
And so I think that's my big complaint with this movie, is that it loses the nuance that the first movie kind of. Stephen King, if there's one thing he does, he writes a lot about the subject he writes about, and so he thought of these things, and I don't think it came through to the sequel of the movie adaptation.
Okay, well, that's I think I need to see that first one just to get some context and some perspective on this, because I think the concept's pretty cool. I think it could be used to like a great narrative extent. I think you can make it for a more interesting movie, which is I think what I was kind of hungering for this one. And
you guys probably missed a lot of the references to the original, anyways.
Probably. I mean, I knew the Creeds were kind of like involved in the first one. They talked about a cat who was resurrected, who I know is iconic.
I think from critical acclaim, I think that's one of the reasons I think this movie got knocked, is it really had only fleeting references to the first movie. We weren't really.
Almost like
it was like, you've all seen the first movie. Why would we explain what's going on here?
Yeah.
So did you guys read, and you guys might have, about, originally this was going to be about the teenage girl who was the survivor of the Creed family. This was going to be a continuation directly from that movie. However, the movie studios, as we expect, thought a teenage girl couldn't carry the movie, so they changed it to a teenage boy, someone who was popular from the Terminator 2 franchise. I'm not going to knock on him. People have done that enough. I think he did fine. And then they couldn't, of all the crazy risks and bets and decisions they made in this movie, that's where they fucking draw the line, is having a teenage girl star. Are you shitting me? Like, those fucking cowards. Like Air Bud 5, they took that risk. They had a teenage girl lead in replacement of their original teenage boy lead. And you know what? I think it worked. I was invested in her storyline. Dare I say it, more than Air Bud 1's storyline. So,
yeah, let's get real. The problem with Air Bud 5 was not the fact that there was a female actress.
Anything, the dog was the problem, but this is not Air Bud 5 reviews. That was last week. But if Air Bud 5 is taking a bigger, more progressive and better like risk than your movie Pet Sematary 2, I think you need to take a hard look at yourself. Wait, how come there's not an Air Bud president movie where there's no rules in the Constitution that the president has to be a human, not a dog? Like, I don't think there is a rule like explicitly written that it can't be a dog.
No, I think if anything, it might just say one person.
I mean, that's not a big legal step, right? Like, I feel like there could be an Air Bud president movie.
Well, we're getting there. Okay, so there's a push in some states, and actually New York is where the current push is going. There's a Court of Appeals case here that is going forward soon about the personhood of the animals in the Bronx Zoo.
Oh, shit.
Mainly the elephant. And so if we take this to its logical conclusion, in some way we could get personhood to pets and have them, not be property anymore. And then person in the Constitution could be then identified as a possible animal.
Okay, so there is a legal case, a legal precedent to allow Air Bud to be a person so that it can be elected into the presidency. And you can have an Air Bud president movie and then have it be a hard-hitting drama. He picks his cabinet by, I don't know, they have like two choices and then he runs to one of them. And that's kind of how he makes every choice in the White House. They have to kind of like put food behind two choices and then he kind of runs to one, like ice cream or sandwich, things Air Bud loves.
So Air Bud is revived by the president to win the Olympics, gains the love of the national audience,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
runs for president. And
Air Bud president
starts going insane and starting a bunch of wars because he was revived in the Pet Sematary.
And
Wow.
this is fucking okay. I don't think we'll get this movie made, but I do think if we pitch this in Hollywood, we will turn some heads.
This is a great elevator pitch, you know. Be like, it's hard to fit our Deli Dudes Lobster Cane movie into an elevator pitch.
Right,
Yeah.
But it might be easy to put Air Olympics into an elevator pitch.
So lock, a Hollywood producer in an elevator, fucking force him to listen to your Air Bud Olympics / President sequel. Get thrown in jail.
You know, maybe I'll test this. On Monday, I'll go to the elevator and say, okay, so the United States uses the Pet Sematary revived Air Bud, and they draft him onto all their Olympic teams, and they need to win all the gold medals, and then he becomes president because he becomes a national icon.
Why'd you hit the emergency stop button?
You know what, dude? If someone, no shit, if that was a trailer for a movie, my ass would be camped out in front of the movie theater so fast. And they took it seriously and not like one of those ha-ha Sharknado shit. Like, if they took this seriously.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like the difference between, you know, the funny, terrible movies and this is like, and even if there's a Hollywood exec out there listening and wants to fund Lobster Cane, like the one thing we hate is when people get a lot of money to make a movie and they don't care about when you we talk about this all the time. What was the budget for this movie? Like, what would you do with this amount of money? Like, if I had $5 million to spend on a movie, I would try to probably make Air Bud becomes president.
Okay, I think we need to get into ratings, guys.
We gotta review the movie. Holy
I
shit.
think we gotta review this gosh darn movie. Jace, do you want to start off our wolfometer here?
Yeah, let me get over to that. Okay. Wolfometer here is, again, just a challenge every single week.
It's a constant challenge this season.
Constant fucking struggle. But, you know, I liked a lot of the tricks that the dog did. We mentioned the dog driving factor, but didn't have the most screen time.
Yeah.
But very well trained. Cute dog.
Yeah.
I'm impressed with what the dog put up with. And, you know, I think the major knocks are really going to come from volume. This was a zombie film that was kind of, we got the zombie dog, and then, you know, it kind of departed from that. I forgot to mention earlier, like, I might have to use my rearview mirror to make sure there's not a zombie dog coming up to, like, attack me when I open a door, because... You know, I want to give it, I don't want to be really harsh. I was thinking originally I was going to give it like a 0 or a 1. But,
damn.
You know, you guys, I'm going to give this movie, the Wolfometer, a 6. And I think that's fair because I think the volume was very, very low. But I loved what the dog was doing. Zowie? Was the dog's name?
Yeah.
Zowie? I loved what Zowie was doing.
What a name.
Yeah, great name.
Zowie. David Bowie's son, Zowie Bowie. Zowie Bowie.
Thanks.
He's a famous director. He has a different name that I'm forgetting his director name, but he directed like Moon and the Warcraft movie. He's done some, but that's the only other real person who I know is named Zowie. So, okay, well, we have a 6. 6 on the Wolfometer. That's a surprising score. As far as my Wolfometer goes, I have to agree with Jace in the fact that there isn't a lot of dogs in this movie. When I had initially pitched this movie, let me defend myself a little bit. I was Googling scary dog movies because I really wanted to see Zoltan, Hound of Dracula. I wanted to see some ridiculous zombie dog shit. This movie was featured in multiple lists of scariest dogs of all time. I think this was number 1 on one of those lists where people are like, holy fuck, this dog scarred me for life. I think the aspects of this movie that scarred me for life are probably not the dog. However, there was scary scenes with the dog. I think things were set in motion because the dog was resurrected. However, the memorable parts are not the dog. I wouldn't call this a dog movie. this is a movie mostly run by humans. Most of the scenes are humans. The dog is not a star. It's not really a main character at all. So for that reason, I'm going to have to comfortably sit at like a 2. There were pretty good dog scenes. I think it was well trained. There's a scene where it's shot and kind of sitting in the kid's lap. And you could tell like the dog is kind of like happy and excited that the kid's like like petting it. But he's keeping it together. He's not like panting. He's like kind of just trying to stay as still as possible. I respect that type of discipline in this actor dog. And the fact that Jay said that, you know, the animal rights groups kind of gave it a pass, at least. That kind of makes me feel a little better. But 2's going to be this. This is not for the dog lovers out there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in between both of you, and I'm actually surprised that Jace put his score up as high as he did. Then.
I think I might have gotten a little too high. I didn't know.
No,
where
but
I
thought I was going to be. I thought I was going to be the highest because I actually really like this movie. Like, I hated this movie and I really liked it. There was dog scenes I think that were so good that they were 10 out of 10 dog scenes. And then I think there was 45 minutes of the movie where the dog wasn't really a big part. So I think, again, I'm going to agree with Jace merely for my dog score. We will get into the actual movie scores after this, but I'm going to give it a 6 on the Wolfometer.
Damn, okay.
Because the rocking chair scene, I think, is an example of a perfect scare scene. And I am going to actually be remembering that scene for a while.
Movie ranking. The things that I liked about this one, Clancy Brown killed it. He really carried the movie with his like crazed acting and playing a total dick. Fantastic. I actually really enjoyed the visual effects in the film throughout the whole time. I enjoyed I think they did the gore well. I think they set up their scenes well. And in this really weird roundabout way, I came into thoroughly enjoying this movie, probably because it was like so bad, but I was laughing. Like I said, it gave the feeling to me of being a comedy, not really a horror film. So I was just laughing at everything by the time it was done, from the way these people are getting killed. You know, I'm just fucking with ya. And it feels up there for me. I would watch this again with its problems. I think this might be a yearly watch for me, maybe around Halloween. I'm gonna give the movie an 8.
No way!
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was just laughing my balls off while I was watching it, and Yuri was so pissed off. She hated it. She's like, "This movie is so terrible," but I couldn't stop laughing. Like, I was loving watching it every single second, and I know that it's like tonally discordant. It doesn't make any sense. It's not doing one thing well on either side of the spectrum. But I was just like, yes.
So it was the so bad it's entertaining and good.
Yeah.
For you. Mm-hmm. Hell yeah, man. That's. I'm glad we're gonna have some differences. Yeah, which I think we're going to watch this. Yeah. Yeah. Well, 8 from Jace. That's a surprise score. For me, this movie, I think, surprised me in the sense that I was expecting something as bad as Dark Tower. I think The Dark Tower is actually worse than this movie. I was expecting something that was really boring, and this didn't bore me. I can at least say that. I think I was invested in this movie. Even though the acting was not good, I was curious about what was going to happen to the characters. I was curious about Jeff's dad. I wanted to see what was going to happen with the Pet Sematary. I think they kind of built tension, maybe not in the most effective way, but I wanted to see how this movie was going to shake down, which I think is a lot more than what I can say about the Dark Tower. Like Jace, I mean, dude, I agree, man. Like, there was scenes where I straight up laughed my ass off. There were scenes I think that were intentionally supposed to be funny with Clancy Brown. And there were other scenes that were just so fucking bad I couldn't stop laughing. Like the mom's terrible death scene. Some of like the reactions in this movie. There's a scene where there's like a babysitter talking to Jeff, and she's like, "Hey, don't worry. Like, sometimes school's hard." And he's like, "You're not my mom." And he like runs away. That had me rolling when I saw it. So yeah, this movie was entertaining, but deeply fucking disturbing, guys. There wasn't a lot of scary parts. There was maybe about 1 or 2 that would kind of like chilled me. The rest of it, it was not effective as a horror movie. If you're laughing too much and you're not supposed to be laughing, I don't think that's an effective movie. Soundtrack was fun. The styles I think I love because it's kind of like a slice of life from the early 90s, late 80s. I think it's a very cool aesthetic if you like that kind of shit. I want more Stephen King movies too. So I think it kind of fed that aspect. However, I am going to give this a 3. This movie is not good. I don't think I overall enjoyed it. But however, when I watched it, I was pretty entertained. Amber would look over from time to time watching, like she would only see like a silent movie because I have headphones on, and she would just see these scenes and she's like, what the fuck is this? So if anything, I think this movie had an effect. Whether or not it was good is to be said, but it's 3 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, that's, I think, the key thing. And sorry to interrupt before you go, Ryan, but
no, yeah.
From a technical perspective of rating this movie, my 8 is a pure feel good how I felt afterwards, because I think from both of you, more so than me, we could really rack up the points against this one as far as it being an effective storytelling device.
I didn't legitimately think you were. Yeah.
Well, so I have competing forces here. I think that my ratings fluctuate a lot between what I subjectively feel and what I objectively feel. If I like a movie, I'm gonna go with total subjective. If I don't like a movie, I'm gonna try and be fair and throw the bone here. But I think this movie is going to benefit a lot from my dogflation, meaning I think that dog movies have a cap. I don't think they can go beyond a certain level. I don't think a dog movie could ever be a 10 out of 10 movie. So I'm keeping that in mind. I'm giving a point or two to where I might think that, a movie necessarily didn't have to have a dog in it. This movie almost felt like a real movie. And so I might score it as a real movie. Even right now, I have not made up my mind. You both made really great points. I actually think I enjoyed this movie less than I would rate it objectively. I think my objective score would be higher than my subjective score. I just did not like watching this movie. It didn't hit me right. And part of that, I think, is that I was watching with Julie. And I try to keep the kind of gory horror movies away from Julie because I like to watch them with her. So I need her to say yes more than once to watching a horror movie. So this is gonna exist in this weird space. Like Jay said, it was tonally all over the place, but it had some charm. And I think the charm was, calculated. I don't think that it was random chance. I don't think that they weren't trying to make us laugh when they made us laugh, or at least when they made Jace laugh. So the issue for me is just how unnecessarily brutal it was at the same time that it was trying to make jokes. Like, I have in my notes here, I have multiple things I started to write down where I was like, wow, this is really brutal. And then the list just got really long to the point where, like, it's kind of comical. Like, in my list are words such as kittens, rabbits, motorcycle, another dog bite, drill, maid, bully coming back and exploding, melting. Like, there were a lot of death scenes in this movie. A couple too many. I mean, this has a higher body count than some slash movies.
Than all of our dog movies, I think. Maybe combined.
All dogs go to heaven.
That one had a body count, actually.
Yeah. I think there were some bright spots. I think with a little script doctoring, this could have been done a lot better. And I think it was done better in the literal first movie of this series. So if this movie gave a little bad taste in your mouth, go watch the first one. Why don't you just go do that? And so therefore, I'm not going to rate it above a 5, I don't think, because it would be hard to be worse than the movie that came before you and still get above a 5. So I'm going to go with a 4, and that's pretty darn generous, I think.
I thought you were gonna go lower than me, Ryan. So that's cool to hear, man. Like,
I'm generous today. I'm feeling good. This was a good episode.
Yeah.
If someone gave this movie a 0, I think I'd be like, yeah, that's totally fair. Let me get this straight. Like, this is not a good movie if we haven't made that clear already. Well, we did it, guys. Ryan, do you feel better digesting this movie now? Because I feel better. Like, I feel like a weight been lifted off.
Yeah, I feel like I wasn't making it up. I feel like it was something that actually happened. And I'm like, whoa. Okay, I've processed this with other adults who maybe felt the same way, maybe felt a little bit differently. So my feelings are valid.
Yes.
And also my nightmares. Like Julie also had a nightmare. And it was not a good time right after this movie. It's been a dark time in my life.
Well, I hope we can be that to other people who have seen Pet Sematary too and are just like trawling the internet. If you're listening in and have seen this movie and did not feel good after it, I hope we helped you digest it, because we hear you. That was some fucked up shit, but now we can move on and watch one more dog movie to wrap up the Doghouse. Finish strong with the Wheel of Chaos, making our final choice.
Oh.
I remember like our choices, like I think on that list looked pretty good. Like I was pretty pleased with what we had. But like every week, each of us can choose to add a movie or take away a movie on this spinner wheel. Jace will spin the wheel and whatever it lands on will be our movie. This is something that has worked to varying effect throughout our season. However, I have no regrets.
So my question for the group, is there a certain amount of ceremony you want to have to movie number 10? Do we want to sort of rig the system by culling out some of the non-favorable movies here that might be like, we're not ending the season on a bang?
We need to end.
Are you guys just telling me that you really want to watch Beverly Hills Chihuahua?
Yes. Honestly, okay. We need to, I think, to Ryan's credit, I think we need to end on a movie that's like straight up a fucking dog movie. Like there needs to be a dog central to the movie. I feel like Old Yeller could that, because that's like a tentpole dog movie. Something like Lassie, Beverly Hills Chihuahua, where it's definitely a dog who is like the main driver and the main screen time. Is that what you're thinking,
I totally
Ryan?
agree. Yeah. Well, sort of dog, but also like sort of like some sort of, final firework of the night.
Yeah. We should still use and respect the Wheel of Chaos, however, because I'm afraid what will happen if we do not respect it.
So usually we get one ad and one veto. I'm going to say I'm not going to exercise my ad, but I'll exercise my veto. I'll get rid of Wiener Dog. I added the movie and I thought it would have been a great movie for 6, 7, 8. But I don't think it's a good number 10 movie.
So yeah, with that being said, unfortunately, Michael, I'm sorry. I'm taking your addition from last week of Max off the list. It just does. It's not gonna hit that 10th spot banger that we've tried to fill the spot with for the past 2 seasons. I respect the Wheel of Chaos, but I've got a veto and I'm gonna use it.
Oh, fair enough. Maybe Max would have been an episode 8 or 9, but we got to get serious now for the last one. Send it out on the Viking ship and make it a very dog movie. What do we got here?
Okay, there is one thing here that does not look like the others.
Cujo and
Isle of
Man's
Dogs.
Best Friend. Oh. Yeah, and Isle of Dogs.
Okay, so we have Old Yeller. Classic golden age fucking dog movie, okay? I'm not going to remove that. Man's Best Friend, dog horror movie, looks fucking ridiculous. Definitely keeping that one for me. Homeward Bound. It has dogs and cats in it, but I think that's definitely a movie with like minimal humans, so I think I'm going to keep that. Isle of Dogs is like a bunch of dogs in it. I think I'm going to keep that. Cujo's not a rabbit-ass dog. Yeah. I mean, with a Stephen King. And then the Shaggy DA, which I think is about a human who gets turned into a dog.
Oh, come on.
Ryan, you should have exercised your veto.
I did.
You wanted something to go.
Well, the issue is the Shaggy DA. It's going to be a very me-heavy episode, and I'm not up to the plate.
We ended with a legal drama on Matthew McConaughey.
I don't want another sequel. That'll be 3 sequels in a row. The Shaggy DA is like a sequel of the Shaggy Dog. where instead of he can turn into like a normal person, the person gets turned into a dog lawyer. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. You know what, Ryan? I think you're right. That Shaggy DA is not dog enough. Okay, doggone it. It's about a fucking human who turns into a dog. It's out.
Yeah.
It's out.
Thank you.
You owe me.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we're down to 5, okay? And I think any of these 5 movies, I think, are definitely about a dog. Cujo, I looked it up, has at least like 3 hours. I think it's 3 hours long. So we've got Cujo, Old Yeller, Man's Best Friend, Isle of Dogs, Homeward Bound. Definitely all dog movies. If we pick any of these, there is no question. What do you guys think? Any ads? Would you guys be mad if we did A Dog's Purpose?
Yes. I'm not doing some Christian propaganda movie.
Okay. I didn't want to either. Just wanted to float that out. All right. What about Underdog or the Shaggy Dog, the first one?
No.
Okay. Totally fine. Last suggestion, Beverly Hills Chihuahua.
The Rise of Beverly Hills Chihuahua.
Wait, is that where... Let me just make sure it's not a
It's
human.
like George Lopez and a bunch of people voicing dogs with the mouths move and stuff.
Yeah, and those movies are great usually. Fine, let's do 5, okay? You know what? We really trimmed a lot of stuff out here, guys. That's why I'm just kind of like, do we need more picks? But you know what? Fuck it. Let's do it. One spin, whatever it lands on, we do for episode 10.
Mm-hmm. One
ready?
spin.
Once more around the wheel for the doghouse. And then we find the key, I guess, and then we go to the next room.
Yeah, they dig through all the dookies, and we found the key that the dog ate.
That was a lot of dookies.
A lot of dookies. And here we go.
Oh my god. Oh, okay.
Wow.
Okay, Old Yeller.
And
We're doing
where
Old
it all
Yeller,
began.
folks. I think it's an appropriate pick because, this is like the dog movie that everyone thinks about. When they think about dog movies, I think it's Old Yeller.
Right.
Iconic movie. I've actually never seen this movie for real. I've only seen clips. So I think just for our cultural dog knowledge, it'd be good to watch. Have you guys seen Old Yeller yourselves?
When I was a kid, and then I promptly had nightmares.
Excellent. Okay. And this is going to be a serious dog movie.
Which is kind of hard to come by.
Huh.
Okay. Well, we'll be ending strong with Old Yeller, folks. We hope you'll join us for episode 10 of season 3. And then we're heading into our 3rd State of the Podcast episode special, where we will be battle royaling with our new revamped voting system from season 2 for season 4. Can you believe that?
We made it. I can't believe the studio hasn't canceled us yet.
And we forgot to say it last episode, but we are on, right now, we're on episode 31. We've made it that far.
That's a
Thank
big
you, guys.
achievement. A lot of podcasts that are kind of self-made, like we are, they only run 20 episodes, 15 episodes before they burn out. And I think the train's a going. I want to hit 50. I want to keep going.
We're approaching. We will have we won't have talked about it in episode. We'll sometime in the middle of this past season have reached 1,000 downloads, and that's pretty cool.
It's pretty exciting. But thank you guys for listening and supporting us. We're super psyched to hear that people enjoy the show, and we love your comments. And just when you guys bring up the show, it's yes, it's super exciting for us.
The most fun thing to me is that people watch more than once, it seems.
Yeah.
Which is a huge success, that we don't immediately turn them off by us just randomly rambling about stupid movies. So that's great. And an unexpected side effect, and this has actually been happening since the beginning, is that Matthew McConaughey and Ben Affleck and dogs come up in
surprising amount.
Come up in normal conversations a lot. I was at lunch with somebody the other day, and they brought up Air Bud. And I was like, oh, yes, Air Bud, let's talk about this for 10 minutes. And, they checked out, obviously.
Yes.
But that's what I like the most, is that this is having some sort of, I think people want to hear about this kind of stuff. They watch movies. Why not listen to idiots, I guess, talk about them?
Absolutely, man. And it's given us an opportunity to explore, movies like Air Bud or Matthew McConaughey movies to an extent that I think a normal person shouldn't. So when it comes up in regular conversation, I become ravenously excited. And then just start spitting out Air Bud facts, and
Or like
people are alarmed.
that like Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez are in the news again.
Oh,
like
God,
New York Times or something did some article where it was like Ben and J-Lo back together and we can't get enough. And I'm like, yeah, we've known since day one. We were on this train.
We've been tracking Ben's every move for the past.
You're behind the curve, New York Times. Get with us.
So we are the preeminent experts of those two actors and apparently dogs. So thank you guys so far for joining us. We hope you'll still join us while we finish off this season. And whatever we may pick for season 4, who knows what road we'll go down next.
Yeah, it's gonna get wild. I will tell you that. I will tell you, like, I am going way left field for my recommendations for next season.
Okay, no spoilers, Ryan. No spoilers, man.
No.
Well, follow us, guys, on all the social medias: Instagram at Good Boys Gone Bland, Twitter at GBGB Podcast. Follow us on YouTube. We don't really say this, but we have a YouTube channel up and running. Follow us at Good Boys Gone Bland if you want to see our faces and see us do this.
They're beautiful.
Have at it. Have at it. A lot of people watch podcasts on YouTube. I don't do this, but I heard it's pretty common. So we're on there now. Check us out. Throw us a subscribe. Throw us a review. Tell your vet about
pretty
us.
much it. Yeah. Also, if we've come back from the dead, you should probably tell the vet that also.
Yeah.
That's actually a plot point in Pet Sematary 2, by the way, for those of you who have not seen it.
Yep.
Yeah. Tell your cemetery guy about us.
Your gravedigger.
Is there any other?
Guys, I don't think I've learned anything about dogs this season.
No. No, actually, I've learned don't bring them back from the dead.
Yeah.
What? You see a guy walking his dog or see anyone walking their dogs? Tell them to check out the podcast.
Yeah.
Hey, you like dogs? We got a whole podcast season about
Like dags?
You like dags? Got a bunch of dags.
Buddy, you like dogs?
You saying bags? What do you?
Oh, dogs.
Thank you guys. Any words of wisdom to send us out on, guys?
Bark, bark, bark.